Welcome everybody to Beyond the Buzz, Practical AI Skills for HR Professionals and Where Do You Start? So in today's session, it will be quick, but we are going to talk about where do you start? How do you build an AI-ready HR team? What are the fundamentals that you need to know with AI and HR? And how can you enhance the overall experience? We're going to be talking about AI-driven hiring optimization, some ahas and benefits there. And then last but not least, we're going to talk about total rewards in the age of AI and why that's important and what you should be looking out for. So I am your moderator. My name is Christy Honeycutt. I'm the SVP of Strategy and Execution for Appy here. And today joining me is the esteemed panel, left to right, and I'll let them introduce themselves here in a moment. But we've got Sean Rabel, who is with Game Plan Total Rewards and an amazing human. We have Carrie Naiman, who is, I call her the prompt queen, but she knows everything about getting your journey started. And then we're also honored to have Appy Here's very own Chief Operating Officer, Theo Rokos, joining us today. So welcome, guys. I'd love for you to do a brief introduction, if you don't mind. We'll go ahead and start with Sean.
Sure. Hello. Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, depending where you're calling in from. I'm Sean Rabel. I'm in Vancouver, BC, Canada. I've been in Total Rewards HR for 25 years, 5 years on my own, consulting and doing fractional work across Total Rewards, HR ops and systems, and workplace mental health. So excited to be here. I've been on a hyper learning journey with AI and different tools. So excited to continue to share and learn on this path. So hello, everybody.
Beautiful. Carrie?
My turn. Yeah. Hey, everybody. This is Carrie Naiman. I am looking at the people who are joining here, and I see some familiar names. So hello, people who I've interacted with before. It's great to see you. I am the CEO and founder of a company called AIXHR, and we specialize in helping primarily HR teams learn how to use AI. So that's what we do, and that's why I'm here today. So thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. And last but not least, Mr. Theo.
Greetings, everyone. Thank you for joining. My name is Theo Rokos. I'm the COO of Appy here. I've been in HR tech. I started one of the first video interviewing companies way back in 2007. Built that up. That company was acquired. And one of my largest customers was Walmart. So high volume frontline hiring has always been something that I've been working on trying to improve for a long time. And I think AI is going to play a big part in that, and really excited to talk about it today.
Beautiful. Well, welcome and thank you guys for sharing your time today with our community. It's very helpful. Guest, as you are welcome to drop some questions in the chat. We will be going through those, so feel free to interact that way, and we'll answer your questions. I'd love to kick this off because I think we're all seeing the same thing. I just came back from 2 weeks back-to-back traveling, Transform and SHRM, and AI is the hot topic everywhere, and it has been for the prior 24 months. But one of the questions I have for all of you, and we'll start with Carrie, is what's one of the biggest misconceptions that you see when it comes to AI in the workplace?
I would say, being that I am tool agnostic, so it'll be interesting to hear other people's perspectives as well. But I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that you need to start by spending a bunch of money on all sorts of different tools to really get started. There are so many ways to use AI before you even think about investing in tools. They're absolutely the right place and the right time for tools, but there's also so much you can do without. And the challenge I think most people are having right now that I talk to is just AI overwhelm. It's AI all day, all the time. Here's a new tool. Here's another new tool. This tool's gone now. This tool's been consumed by another company. Very hard to keep up. And so most of the people that I'm supporting right now philosophically align with the idea that if you just learn how to use AI without tools first, you're going to be in a much better position to identify those areas where you need tools, if that makes sense. So that's I think is a really big misconception, and I think is the thought process doesn't normally go there for us because we've been trained over the past 30 years to just buy tools for everything. So it's a bit of a, not only is the AI thing a mind shift, also thinking about it outside of just tools is a mind shift as well.
No, I agree with that. I think education's the first point to understand. I mean, you can't evaluate tools unless you understand the basics. And then, Theo, I'd be curious from your perspective, same question, what do you think the misconceptions are that you're seeing across the AI transformation?
I think it's actually spot on. I think it's probably interesting for somebody that wants to grab revenue from it to say that, but I think personal use first is incredibly helpful. And I think what's happening is that executives are getting a marching orders to basically say, I need you to come back with a report on how we're going to use AI. And I think for a lot of people, and this isn't a bad commentary, but it's like I don't use AI, or if I'm not using it, if I am using it, I don't know that I am. And I think that personal education is always the best. So you can speak to it a little bit more fluently. I would say that there is a lot of advances, and I'll dive into this a little deeper. But I look at the certainly the hourly high volume hiring process is a vampire. It's not going anywhere. There's always going to be turnover. So you need to break down the problem kind of like a vampire. I use that acronym, right? So vetting, attracting, matching, pre-screening, interviewing, evaluation, all of those things have AI capabilities that can take some of the mundane tasks and fix. But to Carrie's point, like if you don't understand the basics of it, and there's a lot of good resources out there that you can learn it for free. And then I think it's one of those areas where, because of the disconnect, it is really smart to use an outside third party to at least get some advice on how to implement it.
Yeah, I agree. And there are some places that you can go. I know Work Defined has lots of people that talk about this, and obviously everyone on this call talks about this. So Sean, I'm curious to hear your weigh in on this, because I know that you started your AI journey recently and started with the learning modality first, so you would understand, so you could better empower your clients. So can you share your experience?
Yeah, it's been fun. I think it's using AI to learn, right? And so there's a lot of free tools, and having AI teach me AI, right? And so that's been a big thing, is to really subscribe to a few different kind of subscriptions or news articles that are kind of giving you the rundown on the latest, right? Who's providing what services? What are some of the simple tools you can bolt on to a Microsoft Excel or Google Sheets? How do I ensure security? So I grew up I'm a compensation consultant. I grew up as a comp analyst. Security of data is primary. So for me, the biggest questions I have when I'm talking to either providers or working with my clients on a compensation or an HR technology strategy is security matters, right? And so who is our partners that can really make sure our data is secure when we're thinking about AI, right? And so not everybody is a 5,000, 10,000 or plus size organization that has their own software engineers, right? So we find that some of the smaller to medium companies may not have that totally baked yet. And so what the key thing is that it's the learning piece. It's understanding where to go, having AI kind of teach you AI, and learning that what does AI mean and what's machine learning mean? What are agents? And now I was talking to a software engineer, like, you can have an agent build agents. So, and I was like, I'm gonna hang up the phone. What are we doing? So part of it is really understanding, security of data. Where can you learn for free, and understanding the nuances and what these terms mean. And the biggest thing is challenging us is that, we're seeing it in classrooms as well. People are bringing AI to help them write papers and stuff. And I was watching this educator talk about, well, now it's maybe we changed the game. Now it's like challenge what came out of AI, right? As a student. So think of that in your workplace. How do I challenge and say, where is this source from, right? Is this kind of match with what I'm seeing? So I think there's a kind of a different perspective. Like, there's a fear of what it is and what it can be. We're all kind of learning, but also then how does it change the game of our own approach to saying, well, I ran it through AI, gave me this. How would I challenge it, right? It's kind of pushing us as students, right, at all ages, on how we navigate this space. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely doing that. So I love that we've got curiosity and learning, just kind of identifying. So what are the most common places that the three of you see organizations leaning in. So to Theo's point, there are, and I'm seeing this too, there are a lot of CEOs that and board members that are saying you have to come back with a plan on how you're going to use AI and efficiency. And it's landed in different pockets of organizations, but where we primarily play is going to be the HR and talent acquisition space. So I'm just curious, what are the most common things that you guys are seeing where people can lean in from a tactical perspective to answer some of these questions that our HR colleagues are facing?
I can jump in on that one to start, if that works.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think, well, my experience, again, working with different companies is that, and this isn't a great answer, but it really is the answer, there is no one place that is the right place to start. It's just taking the time to identify where your highest administratively heavy tasks might be. It also might vary depending on the time of year. So are you going into performance review season? Are you going into succession planning? Or are you going into, are you hiring a bunch of people and need to create onboarding plans and or, you know, draft job descriptions? It can really, I think one of the biggest challenges people have a hard time, and I know I did initially too, really getting their heads wrapped around is it can do almost anything. And it really can do almost anything. The one thing it does really badly is math, but aside from that, it can do almost anything. And so if you really kind of take a step back and think through your day-to-day, maybe individually and or as a team, and identify those areas where you feel like you can leverage the most time savings, get rid of some of those, like I said earlier, heavily administratively burdensome tasks, that's where I would start. It's not going to be a one size fits all, and it's not going to be a one answer for everybody.
No, I agree. I think it's customizable depending upon what your needs or your pain points are. Sean, same question to you. Are you seeing anything different?
I mean, yeah, I think the math is not as great. There are definitely some that are focused on Excel and sheets that are helping look at analytics and looking for potential errors. So helping with some of that analytic piece. It's coming along, but it's not where it's going to be in probably 5 years or 3 years from now. I think that's the thing is what we need right now, especially in the comp, regression out. It's not fully there yet, but it will get there. And I think that's kind of important. But yeah, anything that we see is around like taking a whole bunch of discovery documents. So we're like say in our Google using Gemini and allowing us to look at material, maybe a 30-page document on a HR system discovery. And we're kind of just go through that and tell me what you see as potential issues or findings or gaps, right? And it's amazing how it will say, you know what, these are some areas that seem inconsistent or don't seem fully fleshed out yet. So it's been really helpful in someone looking at Word documents or Google documents and providing that executive summary. I'm going to the CEO. So help me see if I can find some potential opportunities in a quick way and save us time. So I'm loving it for that. I'm also loving it in job description writing, but also in the job evaluation or leveling. So when we think about, you know what, we're looking at rarity of skill. I'm working with the software company right now, and we really want to get the definition of a level 0 through a level 7 rarity of skill, and in giving us those nicely written, simple kind of competency language that we can use and smooth out from our organization perspective. But getting some of those level descriptors from a job evaluation has saved us a lot of time going, how would you write the rarity of skill in a 7-factor thing? And the key thing is coaching it, like you're an expert in, right? So the part of the prompting we're learning is how do you say please, say thank you, say you are an expert in this. How you use prompting and basically your English and what you put in. There's a lot of cheat sheets and things out there, but it's amazing what you see when you're like, if I'm nice to it, will it give me better results? And where are you getting this data from? So yeah, definitely I'm seeing from some analytic stuff, some of the, formula build. For the first time I used a format I haven't used in probably 10 years, going, how do I do this again? If I want to display it this way, and it's showing, do this, do that, do this. And you can't just copy paste and they'll just do it, but you have to do a little bit of minor manipulation. But I just delivered something this morning to a client where it was like, that's what we were looking for. I'm like, yeah, I used a format I haven't used in like a decade and we made it work. And so there's some really cool where you can take things that were manual or difficult, streamline it, make it faster. So yeah, those are just a few examples. Yeah.
I personally use it as a thought partner, right? And I think that's kind of what you're saying is it's just a really quick resource. And then to Carrie's point, the prompting piece is so critical because it will come back, whatever you put in, it's going to come back. And you don't want to sound, you said, as an SME, which is fantastic. So Theo, on your side, and I know, we've got Carrie, who's our prompt queen, and Sean in compensation, and then your technology. So what are you seeing in this area of what's the number one pain point you're seeing clients kind of come to wanting utilization for AI?
Well, even before that it needs however you're going to use it, it needs data. So how is the organization capturing the data? How well does the organization know the hiring data? How many candidates a month do we get out of that percentage? How many do we hire? What happens to the people that we don't hire? Can we retarget those? How do we retarget those? So the data knowledge up front, I think, is super important. And then I think there's a disconnect between the C-suite and the people charged with implementing it, and that the C-suite's like, if we can take this, we get all this data back, fix all of our attrition, and it's just too broad of a scope to start with, where it should be like, hey, here, what are your top 3 things that are a pain? Well, collecting I-9 forms, interview scheduling, right? Not having the right candidates matched up under our current system. Those are all relatively easy fixes where it can help. But I think it's to the point of, I don't think it has to be I think there's a way you can roll it out based on those pain points that can show success early and slowly. I think that there's a lot of times we listen to the news too much, and I do think it's definitely going to change everything. I think it's going to change everything for the better. I think it's going to create more opportunity. I don't think it's going to be Terminator 2. But I think that it's a matter of it's not going to change. You don't have to get this all done in 1 month to keep up. The companies are not moving that fast, and we talked to a lot of them. There's a way to roll this out the right way where everybody understands it, where it can help and it can make everybody if I'm a recruit, I've done a lot of recruiting. I don't want to collect I-9 forms. I can't. I would rather have my block of time and have my interview, my pre-screening or my interviews just loaded into my calendar. I don't want to spend time doing that. I'd rather be talking to people, trying to get them jobs. So there's a lot of benefits to it. I think it's just a matter of a nice, easy, slow rollout that everybody understands. And unfortunately, it's one of those things where, I think people talk about it, and they try to come across as an expert. So I'm talking about the vendor side now, and a lot of times we're really solving this together on how it's going to work out, and more vendors need to be more open about that.
I think that's great. So coming back from Transform and obviously SHRM, there were a lot of vendors and everyone said they had AI. And I think there is a confusion between AI and automation oftentimes. I'm just curious though, as organizations start to think about this, one of the things that there was a whole seminar about building justification for AI. So you've been told you have to go do this task to go find out how you're going to be innovative and how you're going to, have ROI. But where would somebody start, or how should they start thinking about not just justification, but ROI on what they're proposing to the organization? And I'd love to kick that one off with Carrie and then just go around the room. You guys feel free to interject with each other.
Yeah, so in terms of ROI, I think it's a very different discussion with AI unless you're thinking about hiring fewer people or potentially downsizing your workforce, right? Because that's where the money savings is going to come in. But let's put that aside. And, I'm all about elevate, not eliminate. Let's elevate everything that we do every day to really be leaning on the AI to do the more admin stuff that we're not really using our brains for anyway. We've done it 1,000 times, like the I-9 thing that you talked about, Theo. We don't need to be spending our time doing that. We want to spend our time on the more meaningful work. So for me, that's not ROI, that's engagement, that's potentially employee retention, that's output. So I really feel like we need to shift the discussion from how much money are we saving to what are we gaining on all those other elements? It's very different for us because we're investing in technology. So there's a spend.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you may not be spending less from a expense standpoint, just as you're doing your books. And look at all those other factors. Do you have happier employees? Are you bringing in more people when you're opening up roles because the work's going to be that much more interesting? Like, there's just so many different ways to look at the value add outside of ROI. So I really do believe we need to be shifting the conversation.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I agree with that, but I think retention could play back into, cost savings well, right? If you're delighting and engaging your people and they're staying. But go ahead, Sean. I'm dying to hear what you had to say.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I think it kind of parallels when we do HR technology, RFPs and investment review, right? Like, what's our total cost, right? In terms of all our, on-prem or cloud systems, how many do we have? What are some of those integration costs, maintenance costs, and then all the resources, right? So we do all those when I've implemented, whether it's Workday, SuccessFactors, UKG, I've gone through those a few times over, got the scars. But we are always looking at the total cost for our technology, and our resources. At the end of the day, productivity, right? So what's our revenue per FTE? And if we're going to be investing things that increase productivity, right? Are we able to do more, value add work, more strategic work versus stuck in some of the administration tasks that our employees might have to do? So I think there's kind of looking at from those multiple lenses from, kind of true P&L costs, right? For some, because maybe as you go through the discovery and as things shift quite quickly, do we need these 5 systems or can we just use the one system? I don't really care where my employee addresses are. I care about performance and comp planning and talent planning, right? So the conversations I'm having with CEOs and CHROs is, I don't care where employee addresses are per se. I really want to invest in niche products that give me exactly what I need, because where AI is kind of challenging our service providers is going, what is your AI or automation solution within you as a tech stack, right? And then there's kind of 2 paths happening. It's either I tell my AI agent and interacts with all my technology, or is it AI within those technology platforms? Like, there's a couple paths that might potentially play out over the next 3 to 5+ years. Is where does the AI interface? This is my agent, you go talk to those 5 systems and make sure the address is updated everywhere, and I just use the agent kind of on the front end. So that's kind of interesting to watch. So the ROI is definitely everything that you both have said, and I think it's just, I use kind of the same model of any kind of, we're investing in technology. What's our why? What's our true costs? What are the soft costs, non-monetary stuff from a people perspective, engagement? And then we want to have that baseline, right? And just to see, did we shift? Did our productivity, revenue per FTE go up? Did engagement scores around, I have the tool to do my job, go up, right? There are certain questions that we see common in Gallup or engagement surveys that you might see a shift as these tools become available, going, oh, this is great. I'm glad we're using this, but it takes time. But if you don't have the baseline, then how do you know that you had that return on the investment in this involvement that's happening? And then the last thing I'll say is, being careful of our benchmark. So data can shift, right? A technology implementation or a restructure can shift data around our people. So being mindful of what is your return on investment? Well, what's your benchmark? What's been your history with some of those metrics? Just being really careful with how you set that.
No, very wise insight. Theo, I know that you see a lot of this too, different ROIs and justifications that we work with different clients on. Anything to add?
Yeah, I would just add that the ROI is going to be different in different sectors. So for retention, like you said, is certainly one of them. I think ad spend is going to be dramatically impacted by AI. I think the ability of me getting the data back, looking at where the ad spend is and where I'm pulling candidates from, will reduce ad spend overall. And then, for instance, fast food restaurants perform better when the manager's on the floor. So if you can shorten the interviewing process, and every Wednesday they don't have to spend the entire day interviewing people, I think that has a huge impact in that space. Same goes for hospitality. So depending on the different AI agents are going to impact ROI in different sectors for sure.
So one of the things that is a really great answer. You just made me think of one of the things I heard a lot recently over the past 2 weeks is compliance. So there's a lot of, I think you have people that are curious, that are naturally taking classes like Sean and digging in and finding solutions. And then obviously you've got Carrie who's teaching these solutions. But how do we help the HR leaders or the TA leaders or the leaders period get over the fear of engaging with this technology because of bias and compliance? So I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that, and how you coach the individuals that you interface with to lean in and not be fearful of compliance and bias. Anybody can take that one.
Carrie, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So from a bias perspective, and I share this up front in any of the facilitated sessions that I do, it is impossible to have a non-biased AI model. It will never exist because humans train them and all humans have bias. So we have to go into it with the knowledge that whatever model we're using is going to have bias. Couple different ways you can address that. One is similar to what you were talking about earlier, Sean, use the AI to help you with the AI. You can ask it, depending on the task that you're using it for, to identify possible areas of bias. So let's say you're having it write job descriptions, or you're having it do comp analysis. You can ask it, are there any areas here that I need to be concerned about in terms of bias? If so, what are they, and what can I do to address them, right? So you're sort of using the AI to help you with the AI. The other piece of that is, just like everything we've done for years, or should have been doing for years, we need to be auditing outcomes, right? So anytime we're using AI to help us make decisions, hiring decisions, firing decisions, promotion decisions, anything like that, we need to be looking on a regular basis at what we're doing, analyze the results, decide or determine whether or not anything is potentially unfairly advantaging one particular group over another. That's work we should have been doing all along anyway, but because things are happening so much faster, it becomes even more important that we're continuing to audit. So I would just say those things. I mean, I think, again, the ideal is a non-biased model. It's impossible. Just as long as humans are training it, it's going to be part of something that we're going to have to deal with.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I was at a sales compensation conference in San Fran last year, and they were talking about, there's an AI futurist there talking about, we're all going to be AI supervisors, really. And so you have to monitor, right, your team of agents and what you have and how that's set up. So I think looking for biases, it definitely helps with pay equity analysis. So you're starting to looking at different demographic data to see. So it can help. I think it's that crawl, walk, run, or crawl, walk, run, so that there's comfort, right? Anything that's new, it's like, and when we're dealing with sensitive data, we're redacting personal information, we're making sure we're comfortable. Because if you think about some of the different ecosystems, it's like, who's consuming my data? Can I turn that off so it doesn't go up into, so you have to ask these questions of what is security? What is compliance? Where does my data go? How is that LM being taught, right? And so what is within my ecosystem, what's not? And so there are if you have the money, there are special laptops, like $6,000 US, that you can have AI right into your laptop. And eventually the price will come down for more of us to be able to access secure in our own laptop an AI. And so I think the technology is still evolving, but there's for me, it's all about security. It's that compliance. I've got personal data, we've got proprietary data. And so there's that side from a compliance, and just asking those questions of, if it's a technology provider you're working with, how is my data secure? What's the compliance piece? And then the bias side is exactly what Carrie said. It's like, you're a supervisor, you got to check it, you got to ask the right questions. It does help, but you still need to have that step where you may say 10 steps to do a program or a process, and maybe the first 7 you can automate and use, but those last 3 still need that review, check, human kind of checked, right, to make sure that has anything been missed. And then you can learn from that and go back, and that becomes that process, like, hey, this came out not what I expected. I got to go train my AI team and my team that's using these tools to change that. So yeah.
Theo, anything to add on that from your perspective?
I think overall it's certainly going to improve it. I think a lot of good things it can do right now is point it out and find it. We have, our particular solution, not to just pump us up, but has shown large scale improvements, because it's back kind of that interview process down to very qualified candidates. So you don't have any really top of the funnel human bias that can come in, and then it's about looking at the data and saying, okay, what is the flow from that point on. But to Carrie's point, it's anything created by human beings will inherently have bias.
Yeah. I was going to add as well, like, like we're like seeing in Ontario province in Canada, they've built into some of their pay transparency rules around if you're using AI in your recruiting process, you need to let people know. And so it's kind of one of the first jurisdictions you start seeing that in policy. So we're always being mindful of our pay transparency, pay equity legislation that's happening across North America and globally, and seeing where those are kind of bubbling and whether that applies to you or not. It is good to get a sense of the trends in that space, or from a legislation compliance going, oh, that's interesting what's happening in that market. That might happen where we operate, where we have employees. So I always kind of like to look a little bit to the trends in that space for legislation with pay transparency, because we are seeing it in pockets. Like in Ontario, where they're starting to say, and then there's like, well, what does that mean? And then legislation evolves as you get feedback from employers going, it's not clear enough. But it's an interesting kind of nugget just to share with our listeners today.
I will just add to the compliance piece, being US based, that just completely honestly, it's a bit of a mess right now because everybody's trying to figure out what to do. So for us in the US, you've got different states doing different things. It sounds like in the Canada, you have different provinces doing different things. There's no US federal guideline at this point that's consistent across everywhere.
Yep.
You've got companies that are working internationally, and you have GDPR in Europe and other, so it's going to take a long time, if ever, to truly be able to work out consistent compliance guidelines, it's just, it's a very, very tricky landscape right now.
Yeah, we see our US clients are just taking like California, New York and trying to apply it nationally if they can, like just take the highest, most, and then just apply it because it's just too complicated to maintain. I've got one client in like 30 states. There's like, take the highest one.
And then you take international.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've seen the same thing, and I know there's some really big organizations that model that behavior too. They just look to see what California and New York's doing, lean into the most conservative lens across everything, and from a scalability point of reference, that's easier for teams to be able to have kind of one system versus, because then you're getting into, okay, who's my attorney on speed dial and what company am I working with to kind of check the laws every single day and how it changes. You're tied into the news. So I'm just curious. I mean, there's so much noise in the market right now. Everybody says that they have it. Everybody says that they do it. We've hit on some really important things: curiosity, learning, understanding, the compliance. When we're out there, if a normal HR TA person, they're looking to elevate and transform what they're doing today, and they're looking for people, they're on this webinar, they're looking for people to go to. What would be each of your recommendation for these individuals looking for elevation in their workflow and their processes to find the right vendor or the right person to talk to? What are like the top 3 things that you would guide them into uncovering who they work with? Because salespeople, and I'm one of them, were great, but how do you get through the mess to find the right person you should be talking to?
I cannot be an unbiased responder to that question, so I'll let other people respond first. That's what I do for a living. So maybe Sean could start with that one.
Sure. I think the biggest thing that we want is understanding kind of what are your current state, like, so understanding we talked earlier about where's the most time spent, what programs, what processes, and really understanding current state, understanding your current data piece. So regardless, and this has been talked for years, but it's been talked at different conferences, like, you want to go and do AI and do the latest, but if your data is not clean, right? And so making sure your data is clean, and how are you maintaining that? How are things talking? So you may have, an ATS system and a core HC, and then a learning system, and are even the data fields the same? Because no matter if you go in and invest, but the fields don't map, they're not talking. Do you have a data lake that things are being converted? So having that system architecture, understanding kind of your current and those processes, and going, what? The biggest piece is onboarding. We spend so much time. We have 50 forms because of all the different states and compliance. We got benefit forms and this form and census form. Like, just seeing, we just did one. It was like, how many forms are there? 50 forms and like 80 fields, and we've got 4 systems all needing job information and grade information and the address. Wait, the people keep moving the day they hire. We need to ask them again, are you sure you live where you say you live? So like understanding current state, friction points, and the data quality is first. And then, yeah, there are a few places to go to kind of get, almost like a shopping list. You're going to go, okay, I want something. What are some tools for Excel or compensation? Where can I go? And using kind of AI you can actually ask, I'm looking for an area in onboarding and AI. What are some possible ones? And Google search too. But there are some, and I can share after some links to where you can actually go and see which apps or technologies provide by different functional area of HR. So that's kind of a fun way where people are creating these kind of online warehouse. We're like, okay, aisle 1 compensation, aisle 2 talent, aisle 3, right? So I think that's kind of where it's just so many. It's a bit confusing. So I have a few. That's why I follow a couple different subscriptions for the latest rundown on AI, just to get a sense of what's happening in the space. So.
And I'll interject now my viewpoint on that.
Yeah.
So as I was saying earlier, I don't think that the best place to start oftentimes is tools, because it is overwhelming, right? So I would take a step back before you get into the overwhelm of tool shopping, honestly, and really think about what your most time-saving applications might be, and really dive in first to seeing whether or not you can accomplish that goal without ever buying a tool. And again, that's just the way that we focus in my company. Let's get you really as far down the road as we can without ever needing to look at a tool, and then fill in the gaps with tools. Appy here, for example, high volume hiring, you need support with that. It's almost impossible to do just with individual prompting. You're just never going to get there. The amount of information that you get and the processes that are done with AI through that tool are amazing. And at the same time, there's so much you can do without ever starting to look at tools. I just personally think that if you start with tool shopping, I go into an IKEA and I'm exhausted immediately because there's too many choices. It just feels like that to me, as opposed to just starting to get engaged, learning how to use it without the tools.
I agree. Yeah, I think it's, to clarify, I think it's understand current state, 1, what are your pain points? It is good to see kind of what's happening. And everybody has different points of view, right? And so for me, I do like to see a little bit of my current vendors. So who I have contracts with, I'm going to start with them. What are your AI capabilities? What's your roadmap look like? Talking to IT, talking to finance, our own internal, what are we building? What can you do support before you go and invest? But it is interesting to see what's out there. And why I do that is when I know what the latest trends are, it'll give me questions to ask my current providers, right? Oh, are you doing this? So it doesn't mean you have to go and buy the tool, but I like to talk to potential providers because it gives me a sense of what's possible. And then I can use those as questions to ask my current providers, do you do this? Do you do this? And it helps us, anything we're doing, we need to document our requirements, our must-haves and the nice-to-haves. So so for me, I do like to do a little bit of shopping, not go down all the way down the aisle. I agree. It can be overwhelming, Carrie. So but I do like to go down a little bit and go, who's at the top shelf, bottom shelf, right? Price points, just to get a sense. But yeah, we're never purchasing anything until we do all that discovery requirement gathering. Yeah.
I must have been made for AI because I taught myself how recruitment on bullion strings on shopping. So I would do bullion strings around shoes and do that. But Theo, from your point of view, because I know that we see this a lot. Go ahead.
No, I would say you're talking about change management, and good leadership will always give you resources and budget for change management. You have a job that you do. Now I'm asking you to do change management. You now have 2 jobs. So if I'm a good leader, I'm gonna say, go find an expert, bring the expert in, and here's the budget for that. You and the expert are gonna come back to me with a budget of what tools we need. So totally agree with that. Fortunately, the world's not made up of completely great leaders. So if I was looking at it just from my hiring lens, I would start from attraction to interview. Where are the log jams in attraction to interview? What is our budget that we're spending there? What are we doing with the data? Because there's a lot of things out there that can help with that top part of the funnel around AI. But for me, if it was depending on the size and scale of the organization, it's something that should have resources and budget behind it. And by budget, on the early budget is, somebody else should be brought in to take a look at what's happening.
From like a more human perspective, from my point of view, it's find somebody that resonates with you, that they're speaking your language, because if they're speaking your language, you're going to understand and be able to digest that a little bit easier. And, and what we'll do, and I think would be good is get the individuals on this call, their resources and some of their items that might be helpful for those on the call. We are about to wrap up. We've had a couple of questions come in, so I'm going to read those out now. And audience, if you have any questions, now's the time to get them in. So we have someone that says, this one's probably for you, Theo. How can AI help hiring teams make better decisions faster, especially when they're dealing with hundreds of applications a week?
So the really around qualification, right? So one of the things is that there's a tendency in our space to have a magic pill. So there is no magic pill. So there's got to be 5 questions. And let's say, for instance, that we're hiring forklift drivers. Just by adding a simple question in that the AI that can get run through do you have a certification for a forklift? Yes or no. Also the use of and shocking that I'm going to use video as my example, but the ability inside the system to show a quick video. Great example we have and use is under TSA. We're the last bastion of the written word in hiring. Here's the 4-page job description that we're going to send to the 18-year-old getting an hourly job. It's ridiculous. People consume information via video, period. So the ability to add video into the hiring process of, hey, here is the suitcase coming through the screener, pick out the grenade, is just a very easy example. But the biggest thing is the continual, whoever you partner with them. So the 5, if we're going to have 5 questions in there, are we looking at that data on the 5 questions? And are we in time tying that back of how they're answered, who stays and who leaves? And are there questions that need to be changed daily, weekly, monthly? Those are the things up front. The biggest thing that I see in high volume hiring is that first part of the funnel. They either don't tell the truth about what the role is and show what the role is. It's one thing to say you need to be able to lift 50 pounds. It's another thing to show somebody in a warehouse lifting 50 pounds and it's one thing to say you're on your feet all day, or to show them visually that they're on their feet all day. So the very front of that funnel needs to constantly be being tweaked based on the data that we're receiving back. And that will create a filtration system that has intelligent friction in it. The worst thing that ever happened to the space was the auto apply. I had a bad day at work. My boss pissed me off. I'm going to auto apply to 50 jobs. Even if companies reach back out to me, now I'm not applying, but I'm in all of these hiring funnels. And how do we keep that engagement going on? And that's something that I think has really changed over the last few years. And there are a lot of products, our product, my competitors' products, that are really good at that candidate engagement. And really good at creating that intelligent friction up front. So when your recruiter gets their list or their interviews, all that hard work is already done.
Good answer. So another question that we have in the chat, this looks like this is probably going to be for you, Sean. So how has AI improved your ability to benchmark compensation against market data? Anybody can answer that, but I feel like that's our comp guy.
It's definitely not me. So Sean, take it away.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing when we're looking at, because you usually want at least two sources, if not 3. It's kind of taken some of the steps of looking for some of the weighting between different surveys. So are they 50-50, or am I using 70? So looking at just speeding up some of that analytics in terms of let's say one survey has only like 2 companies participate, maybe 3, and this one has like 10. So seeing some of just a quick to say, you know what, are you seeing any potential where there's issues in terms of the survey balances and the weighting? We're getting to that market median. So it's been just using some of the AI to use some of the bolt-ons within the sheets or Excel to really look at kind of the survey data we're putting in and how looking for those nuances in a quicker way to see, and then modeling, right? So that visualization of your benchmark data and how that then plays out against your employee data, maybe your current ranges, et cetera. So I'm having lots of fun kind of playing with that piece, because benchmark is important. It's like, where do you get the data? And once you have the data, how do you use it? I mean, we've been watching it for, I've been watching market data for 25 years, and it's been interesting to watch. And after the pandemic, there was less participating companies in some of the big surveys. We're like, what happened there? The P3 is more than the P4. Like, you start seeing some data. So versus doing it kind of manual, or the filters, we like to sort stuff in comp and like do VLOOKUPs and all. Having kind of that bolt-on AI friend with me to kind of like look for these 5 things, it's pretty cool to make it quicker. Yeah, and you're not going to miss anything, because sometimes we're dealing with larger databases, like we're using every row on that sheet, and so you don't want to miss something, right? And so the biggest thing is comp is trust and credibility. So you want to be able to have that checker friend, basically, that's helping you check that you caught everything. And so, yeah, that's been big with the benchmarking, is the weighting and how looking at some of the observation variances and what it looked like last year. Hey, this one dropped over 10% in terms of participants. You want to look at that weighting of that data differently. Yeah.
Beautiful. I know who I'm coming to if I have comp problems, for sure. So, so Carrie, one of the questions would be around prompting that I'm seeing. So it's asking, how do you set the tone, or what's your best recommendation for setting a tone for prompting?
One thing you can do that a lot of people don't do is provide it with examples of other things you've written. Let's say you want it to be in your own tone and style and not sound like ChatGPT wrote it for you. You can actually give it previous examples of things that you've written in your own voice and ask it to mirror that tone and style, and it will do that. You can do it for, like, let's say maybe you're not writing for yourself, maybe you're writing for someone else. Very similar thing, like you need to write to some sort of internal communication coming from your CHR or your CEO, give it examples of previous communications, and it will absolutely mirror that. I think without that, you do run the risk of having it sound very much like AI, and I'm sure everybody's experienced that. But the more you can give it, the more context you can give it in any use case, the better it's going to do in providing you with a much better outcome.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
All right, so we're at the top of the hour, so I'm going to ask one more lightning bolt question, and then we'll close the session. And I would encourage the audience or anyone that's watching this later, if you would like to speak with any of these individuals, please reach out on LinkedIn, email, Instagram, however you guys can connect them. And they're very sweet and very interactive, so I would encourage you to do so. So, question for our guest: what is your favorite AI technology?
I can start.
Yeah.
I just started using deep research, and it is not an inexpensive investment. It's just through OpenAI. It's called Deep Research. There's other companies that I'm sure are going to mirror the deep research capability, but I always sign up for stuff just to kind of play with it. And I think, well, it's $200 a month, US. So how can I possibly benefit from that? I have already used it so many times. My latest example was, I want to get ahead of applying for speaking at conferences, right? We're mid-2025. A lot of these conferences open up, I don't know, second or third quarter for the following year. It's very early, and I've historically missed deadlines, which has been very frustrating. So I just had it survey the entire landscape of HR conferences internationally, told it what I do, gave it some information about my business and what we do. And within 10 minutes, it had created, a top 20 list with the conference dates, the speaker proposal dates, and anything else I needed to know contextually about the conference. It was amazing. So I have had a lot of fun with it in that way. It's unlike anything else I've used to date with respect to AI, because it's not just generative. It's called deep research for a reason. It actually goes out and does the research for you. And while it's working, it shows you what it's doing. So it's like a narration. Now I'm going to go look at this, and now I'm going to use Python code for that, and now I'm going to blah, blah, blah. So you can see how it's truly kind of working through your question. Right. I really find it fascinating and incredibly helpful. So yeah, that's my favorite one so far. New one.
Sean?
I've been using Kindo a lot. So it's and it's free subscription, and you can access the different models. So I love that you can kind of go from DeepSeek to Sonnet, whatnot. So that's been a really game changer. And then there's a whole bunch of these Excel sheet bolt-ons I'm still playing around with, whether it's like numerous AI equals row.com. Like there's like 10 that I've been playing around with. Some you have to buy. So I'm really refusing to buy, right? I was looking for free subscriptions, trials, those kind of things. So if people are looking for more there's like one's called simple for sheets, a simple ML for sheets, like machine learning for Google Sheets. There's a whole bunch. So happy to share links to people, but yeah, that's outside. I'm using my Copilot, within Microsoft and Gemini, within those frameworks. So that's been obviously helpful. So more than one, sorry.
No, I love that. So, Theo, what's your favorite AI besides our AI?
I went down I've gone down the rabbit hole on one called Runway, which can do text to video. I think there's a lot there, especially if there's things that we're working on where, the ability to put that, it's big for me. The ability to put that messaging into video, especially around job posting, is huge. And then for your personal life too, it's pretty cool to be able to do that for all kinds of stuff, social media and other things. So that's the one I've been playing around with the most.
I'm going to have to check that one out. My favorite is MidJourney. It's not super expensive. I think it's like $20 a month, but it's my creative side when I'm not working for this man here. It allows you to create imagery, and I'm an artist in my brain, but not by my hand. So I can do it through AI, which I love. Thank you, each of you, very much for joining and bringing your insight to our community. Is very much appreciated. And we will, for everybody that registered, we'll send you an email with everyone's contact information. Would encourage you to reach out, connect, ask questions. We're here, we care, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.